This is gonna be a hard one to review, without going into spoilers, of course. Let me get this straight right up front. This is a very good movie. Absolutely. But, in my opinion, it suffers from one thing. There's no point of rewatch value. Why? Let's discuss. Welcome back to Animation Station. Welcome to my review of the new Netflix movie, The Killer, by David Fincher. So far, the only movie we've reviewed of his, since I started both these channels, was Alien 3. And that was not a fair assumption of the director, because that one was not his fault. That was corporate fuckery. So, this is my first actual review of a real David Fincher movie. And I can say right now he is a very talented filmmaker. But maybe his movies just aren't my style. I don't know. I haven't seen Seven or any of his more highly acclaimed stuff, so I can't really say for sure just yet. I can say that this is a very good movie. I'm glad that I watched it. I'm thankful it was less than 2 hours long. But I don't really have an incentive to watch it again. Let me explain in my short, brief, written review. This is a difficult one to really review without going into spoilers. Michael Fassbender is great as always. The story is unique, the tone is tense, the kills are mostly quiet yet brutal. The filmmaking is excellent from Fincher. Swinton does a great job in the one scene she gets at the very end. Again, that's a spoiler, so I can't really go into detail, but it's an amazing scene at the very end. The characters are anything but simple, and despite the lack of dialogue outside of the narration, the writing, and said dialogue is still razor sharp. This movie, for most part, is actually really quiet. Most of it's only done through narration from the characters. I assume their psyche or something, I don't know. But he keeps repeating this mantra over and over to himself all throughout the movie, and that's pretty much most of the dialogue in this movie is him repeating this mantra to both himself and the audience. However, it's a little too slow pacing-wise. The first act takes a while to get the story going, the ending is a bit odd and pretty anticlimactic, and there's a lot of moments of silence that can definitely feel repetitive after a while. Don't get me wrong, I love silent movies. You guys know I'm a huge fan of the silent era stuff. But this wasn't really meant to be a silent movie. It's supposed to just be a movie about an assassin and, his actual psyche, and how he keeps saying to himself over and over that this isn't personal as he goes after his employers and the people that almost killed, I would assume, his wife and or girlfriend. But he keeps telling himself it's not personal. But for some reason his psyche or his mindset or something ends up changing throughout the movie. And again, really, really difficult to explain without going into spoilers. And also, this isn't a negative on the film itself, but it's something worth pointing out. The Netflix description of this movie on their app, when you see it there, their description of this movie is terrible. They just say, it's a spy thriller from David Fincher starring Michael Fassbender, yada yada yada. They don't really explain a plot synopsis or nothing. Heck, I didn't even know what the movie was about when I was first watching it. I was sitting there confused, what's this movie about exactly? Because your synopsis did a really bad job trying to explain it. And it makes it literally impossible to figure out what this movie's actually about, without some kind of synopsis. So I end up having to look up a bunch of reviews after I finished watching it for myself to actually get a grasp on the story and what David Fincher was going for. That's a fault on the app, that's not a fault on the filmmakers or anyone else like that. So, yeah, just be aware you're going to need to look up a plot synopsis before you go into this movie, because the Netflix description of this movie is terrible and doesn't even remotely begin to explain the movie itself. Overall, though, this is a really good movie, but sadly lacks any incentive to rewatch it again, which for me is a pretty big factor when reviewing movies, because sure, one movie may be better than the other, but if this one is more rewatchable than this one, I'm going to prefer this one. If you guys get what I'm saying. The more rewatchable a movie is, the higher I can have it on my own personal list and my own personal enjoyment factor. It's definitely worth seeing, and I definitely do recommend it, especially if you were one of those lucky people to see it in theaters before it went to Netflix. But just be aware it's not really all that rewatchable. Final verdict for this movie is going to be a 6. out of 10. It might go up, it might go down, I don't know. I need to see more of David Fincher's filmography to really understand his style. But as the movie is, it's pretty good. I enjoyed it. I just don't really feel an incentive to rewatch it again. It's a one and done at best, but it is a really good one and done. I'm glad I saw it. It won't be on like any best list or most surprising list or anything like that. But it will definitely be on the top half of my year-end ranking, so yeah, I'm glad I saw it. It is a good movie. It is worth seeing. I just feel like I need to see more of this director's filmography to really understand his style. That's just my own personal thing. Well, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next review.